Welcome! In this video, you will complete an interactive lab on Azure PowerShell. What is Azure PowerShell? Azure PowerShell is a cross-platform task automation tool comprising of a command line shell, scripting language, and a configuration management framework. Cross-platform means PowerShell can work on various operating platforms like Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Command Shell allows you to use text commands to complete your text. Command Shell allows you to use text commands to complete your tasks. Interpreted at runtime means the text commands are translated in real time to machine code. The Microsoft definition of relevant terms for this lab is on the screen, but it's up to you to pause the video and review them at your own pace. Taking the time to comprehend these concepts fully will set you up for success and help you excel in your lab work. It is almost time to start the lab. You must know some PowerShell commands to help you. I've included some critical commands for the lab. In addition, if you are running PowerShell from your local machine, use the Connect-AzAccount command to connect your computer to Azure. Remember to pause this video if you need extra time to understand the terms and use them efficiently. With these commandlets in your arsenal, you'll be way on your way to succeed in this lab and beyond. This interactive Azure PowerShell lab aims to provide developers and IT professionals with practical experience in using PowerShell to create and manage resources in Azure. The session covers important terms and commands, followed by a hands-on activity. Participants will initiate a PowerShell session, create a resource group, and manage disk using PowerShell and configure the managed disk in Azure PowerShell. They will learn to manage Azure resources using PowerShell commands and gain practical experience in resource management with Azure PowerShell. The lab offers a hands-on approach that enables participants to practice their newly acquired skills and engage more deeply with Azure PowerShell. By the end of the session, developers and IT professionals will have a deeper understanding of running Azure PowerShell commands and managing resources in Azure, enabling them to work more efficiently and effectively on their IT projects. Task 1 is to start a PowerShell session. In the toolbar of Azure Portal, click the Cloud Shell button. Switch from Bash to PowerShell using the down arrow, and confirm you want to switch to PowerShell. If you're new to using PowerShell, complete the steps to mount the storage. If you have previously completed the PowerShell setup, you will not receive the "You have no storage" mounted prompt. Click Show Advanced Settings, use your cloud subscription, and verify your location. In the bottom fields, create or use a new or existing resource group, storage account, and file share. Then select Create. Click Show Advanced Settings, use your cloud subscription, and verify your location. In the bottom fields, create or use a new or existing resource group, storage account, and file share. Then select Create. Task 2 is to create a resource group in a managed disk using PowerShell. A resource group is a way of organizing and managing resources in Azure. It allows users to group related resources, such as virtual machines, storage account, and networking components. It allows users to group related resources, such as virtual machines, storage accounts, and networking components together for easier management and organization. Users can control resource access through resource group level permissions and enhancing security and governance. Resource groups are also helpful in managing costs, as users can view cost analytics for resources within a group. Managing disks are a fancy way of saying a hard drive in the cloud. With managed disks, you do not have to worry about the disk size, type, and provisioning of the disk. It is essential to understand how to create both resource groups and manage disks using PowerShell, as it provides users with a powerful and efficient way to manage Azure resources. PowerShell allows users to automate the creation and management of resource groups and managed disks, saving time and effort. Additionally, PowerShell provided a comprehensive set of commands and functionality for configuring and managing resources, enabling users to deploy and configure virtual machines in Azure easily. Using PowerShell to create and manage resource groups and manage disks streamlines the process and enhances efficiency in managing Azure resources. Using PowerShell to create and manage resource groups and manage disks streamlines the process and enhances efficiency in managing Azure resources. Resource groups are a fundamental component of Azure as they provide a logical grouping for resources and enable you to manage them collectively. They are logical containers that hold Azure resources such as virtual machine storage accounts. The resource group can be managed as a unit, allowing you to organize and manage your resources efficiently. The resource group can include all the resources for the solution or only those you want to manage as a group. You decide how to allocate resources to resource groups based on what makes the most sense for your organization. Generally, add resources that share the same lifecycle to the same resource group so you can quickly deploy, update, and delete them as a group. If you have a resource group you are already using, you can find the resource group in the GUI by using the command line. A variable in PowerShell is similar to a variable in other programming language, and it represents a storage location in memory that can store information such as numbers, strings, or objects. Variables can be declared and used in PowerShell scripts to store data that needs to be accessed and manipulated throughout the script. To declare a variable in PowerShell, you start with a $, followed by the variable's name. For example, $myvar equals you got this. The command myvar equals you got this created a variable named myvar with the string you got this. The first part of the command, Get-AzResourceGroup, calls the commandlet that retrieves information about a specific resource group. The name parameter specifies the name of the resource group we want to retrieve information. In this example, name should be replaced with the actual name of the resource group we're interested in creating. In my command, I used RG-CyberChristie, but you can use whatever you want. The second part of the command, .location, is used to retrieve the location field from the output of the Get-AzResourceGroup commandlet. This location field defines the geographic location of the resource group and is vital for ensuring the deployment of resources in the correct region. Finally, the entire command is wrapped in parentheses and assigned to the location variable for later use. By doing this, we can refer to the location of the specified resource group simply by using the variable location in our code rather than repeatedly calling the Get-AzResourceGroup commandlet. The goal is to create a variable that will allow you to easily reference your resource group name as needed. To create your variable, start by naming it using the format $RGName. Be sure to encapsulate its name using an apostrophe and then assign it to your desired resource group name. Using the command $RGName equals, insert your resource group name. By following these steps, you'll be able to quickly and efficiently reference your resource groups throughout your PowerShell session. A New-AzResourceGroup commandlet is an essential tool in Microsoft Azure PowerShell as it helps you create a new resource group in Azure. When running the New-AzResourceGroup command, you must provide a name for the resource group and specify the location where to create it. The New-AzResourceGroup commandlet allows you to specify the name, location, and resource group tags for the new resource group. By running this commandlet, you will create a new resource group that organizes and manages the Azure resources. In this lab, we use the Get-AzResource commandlet to review information about our resource groups. The commandlet returns the name, resource type, location, and tags of the resource. Since we did not specify a tag value when we created our resource group, the tag property was empty in the command output. It is important to note that this step is not creating the disk, and it is creating a variable that states the parameters the disk should contain. The first part of the command, New-AzDiskConfig, calls the commandlet that creates a new disk configuration object in Azure. Use the location parameter to specify the disk's future location. The location variable in this command contains the geographic location of the existing resource group that was retrieved using the Get-AZ commandlet. The -create option parameter specifies the method used to create the disk. In this example, empty is specified, which creates a new empty disk. The disk size GB parameter specifies the disk size in gigabytes. In this lab, we start with 32 gigabytes. The -SKU parameter specifies the stock keeping unit, or disk type. In this example, standard LRS is specified, which creates a standard locally redundant storage LRS disk. Finally, the entire command is wrapped in parentheses and assigned to the $disconfig variable for later use. By doing this, we can refer to the disk configuration object simply by using the variable disconfig in our code, rather than repeating the entire command. The value of my string is cc-az104-disk1, but you can choose whatever you'd like. We assign a value we can utilize later in our PowerShell script. By setting a variable, in this lab we have reused many of our variables. In this case, disk name is assigned with the name value. We create this value and may use it with other commands or variables to create a virtual machine or disk in Azure. The New-AzDisk commandlet creates a new managed disk in Azure. The resource group name parameter specifies the resource groups to create the disk. The disk parameter specifies the disk information, including type, OS type, etc. The actual disk properties are specified as PowerShell objects. For example, to create a 32 gig standard LRS disk, you can use the -disk parameter as follows. New-AzDiskConfig -location in --location -create option empty -disk size GB 32 -SKU standard LRS. Then pass the disk object to the disk parameter of the New-AzDisk commandlet. Overall, the New-AzDisk commandlet is an essential tool for managing disks in Azure and create updates, and delete disks and attach and detach disks to virtual machines. When using the command New-AzDisk -resource group name, disk name, disk, I use the variable we created in the previous slide for the resource group, disk, and disk properties. Once the command finishes running, check the disk section of the Azure portal to find your newly created disk listed there. However, if you encounter any errors, try these troubleshooting steps. Use a tick instead of an apostrophe. Ensure there is a space before the opening tick and after the variable. For the last variable, add a space before hitting enter. Check your previous commands for error. PowerShell command Get-AzDisk -resource group name $rgname -disk name $disk name retrieves information about a specific disk in Azure. The first part of the command, Get-AzDisk, calls the commandlet that retrieves information about the Azure disk. The resource group name parameter specifies the name of the resource group which houses the disk. In this example, rgname contains the name of the resource group, which ensures that the commandlet retrieves information about the correct disk. The -disk name parameter specifies the name of the disk. In this command, $disk name contains the name of the disk that we want to know the details about. Overall, this command helps you manage your disk resources in Azure by quickly retrieving information about disks, such as their size, location, and status. You can use this command to quickly get essential information about an Azure disk without having to search in Azure portal manually. Task 3 is to configure the managed disk by using Azure PowerShell. PowerShell command updates the configuration of existing Azure disk. The first part of the command, New-AzDiskUpdateConfig, creates a disk and updates the configuration object with the specified revisions for the Azure disk. In this example, -disk size GB 64 specifies that we want to increase the disk size to 64 gigs. The vertical bar, known as a pipe, passes the New-AzDiskUpdateConfig commandlet output to the Update AzDisk commandlet. The second part of the command, Update AzDisk, applies the specified updates to the disk. The resource group name parameter specifies the location of the resource group, while the disk name parameter specifies the disk names. Overall, this command allows you to make important updates to existing Azure disks without deleting and recreating them. The PowerShell command Get-AzDisk -resource group name $rgname -name $disk name retrieves information about a specific Azure disk. The first part of the command, Get-AzDisk, calls the commandlet that retrieves information about an Azure disk. The -resource group name parameter specifies the name of the resource group, ensuring that the commandlet retrieves information for the correct disk. The -name parameter specifies the name of the disk. This command is helpful because it lets you quickly and easily get important information about an Azure disk, such as its size, location, and status. This command allows you to keep track of your disk resources and identify any issues that might arise, which allows you to optimize your Azure infrastructure for performance and cost efficiently. The command Get-AzDisk resource group name $rgname $disk name.sku builds on the last command, but puts parentheses around this command and adds SKU at the end. The PowerShell command retrieves the SKU, the stock keeping unit, the Azure storage type for a specific Azure disk. SKUs are case sensitive. In .SKU, the .SKU is a command that retrieves the value of the SKU property of the disk object. This property defines the SKU or type of the disk, such as standard LRS or premium LRS. Overall, this command is helpful because it lets you quickly retrieve an Azure disk SKU quickly. By identifying the SKU of a disk, you can ensure that you are selecting the appropriate type of storage that meets your performance and cost requirements. For more information on SKU types, scan the QR code. The PowerShell command New-AzDiskConfig -SKU premium LRS update -AzDisk resource group name $RG name disk name $disk name updates the configuration of existing Azure disk. The command New-AzDiskConfig first part creates a disk update configuration object for the specified Azure disk. In this case, SKU premium LRS is used to change the SKU type of the disk to premium LRS, which indicates that you want better performance and a premium storage account for the disk. The pipe passes the output of the New-AzDiskConfig commandlet to the Update AzDisk commandlet. The second part of the command Update AzDisk applies the updates to the specific disk. The resource group name parameter specifies the resource group. The disk name parameter specifies the name of the disk. The overall effect of this command is to update an existing Azure disk storage account SKU type to premium. This change increases the performance of the disk, which might satisfy specific performance requirements of an application. Use the Get-AzDisk command with the .SKU to validate that the change took effect. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.